10th time. I'm a police officer. Let's get this straight. Detective Mike Logan.
The gavel drops. The screen fades to black. For over 3 decades, Law & Order defined crime television. But behind the iconic dun-dun sound, chaos ruled. Actors were fired mid-season without warning. Scripts were ripped from tomorrow's headlines. And one cast member refused to speak to another for 7 years straight. These are 20 secrets about Law & Order that stayed locked in the evidence room for decades. The investigation starts now. Number 20. The dun-dun sound almost didn't happen.
He said, basically, it's steam coming out of the street. It's going to be streety.
It's the most recognizable sound in television history. 2 sharp notes that signal a scene change, a shift in tone, the moment when Law & Order becomes Law & Order. But composer Mike Post didn't want to use it. He thought it was too aggressive, too jarring for a show trying to feel realistic. Dick Wolf, the show's creator, disagreed. He wanted something that would grab viewers by the throat. Something that said, pay attention, something important just happened. They argued about it for weeks. Post kept pitching alternatives. Softer transitions, musical cues, ambient sound. Wolf rejected every single one. Finally, Post created the sound using a combination of nearly 500 separate elements. A judge's gavel, a jail door slamming, an amplified heartbeat, a cash register, a gunshot. He layered them together, processed them, and compressed them into 2 sharp hits. When Wolf heard it, he smiled. That's it. That's the show. The sound became so iconic that it's now trademarked. You can't use it without permission. And Mike Post, the man who didn't want it in the first place, has made millions in royalties from those 2 seconds of audio. Because sometimes the thing you fight against becomes the thing you're remembered for. Number 19. Chris Noth was fired for being too difficult. Mike Logan was a fan favorite. Tough, street smart, the kind of cop who bent rules but got results. Chris Noth played him for 5 seasons, becoming one of the show's breakout stars. Then suddenly, he was gone. The official story had creative differences. The real story was uglier. Noth clashed with producers constantly. He'd rewrite his lines without permission. He'd show up late to set. He'd argue with directors about how scenes should be played. At first, Dick Wolf tolerated it because Noth was good, really good. But by season 5, the fights had become too frequent, too public. Wolf made a decision: fire him. Not gradually, not with a slow write-off, just gone. In the season 5 finale, Logan punches a city councilman and gets transferred. 1 episode, 1 punch, 1 exit. Noth found out he was being let go the same way everyone else did. He read it in the script. He was furious. He called it a betrayal, a cowardly way to end a character people loved. But Wolf didn't flinch. He'd built Law & Order on a simple principle. No one is bigger than the show. Not the actors, not the characters, not even the stars. Noth eventually came back years later for Law & Order, Criminal Intent. But the relationship was never the same, and the lesson was learned. On Dick Wolf's show, you follow the rules, or you're gone. Number 18. Every episode was ripped from real headlines, including active cases.
We find the defendant not guilty.
Law & Order didn't hide where it got its stories. The opening disclaimer said it clearly. The show is inspired by actual events. But what viewers didn't know was how closely the writers followed active investigations. Sometimes too closely. The writers kept police scanners running in the room 24 hours a day. They subscribed to every New York newspaper. They had sources inside the NYPD, the DA's office, and even the mayor's staff. When a crime happened, they'd start working on an episode immediately, not months later, sometimes within days. In season 3, an episode about a jogger attacked in Central Park aired while the real case was still in trial. The defense attorneys went ballistic. They claimed the show was tainting the jury pool, prejudicing potential witnesses. They demanded a mistrial. The judge denied it, but barely. NBC's legal team had to step in. They created new rules. No episodes based on cases still in active litigation. No using real names or too similar details. The writers hated the restrictions, but they found workarounds. They'd wait until a verdict came down, then rush the episode into production. or they'd change just enough details to claim it was fictional, but everyone knew. When you watched Law & Order, you weren't just watching entertainment, you were watching tomorrow's newspaper today.
Number 17. Jerry Orbach and Benjamin Bratt didn't speak off camera for years.
Girls want to see their Uncle Lenny. Definitely.
I got news for you, Cosette. There's no such thing.
Lenny Briscoe and Ray Curtis. On screen, they were partners, best friends, the kind of detectives who'd take a bullet for each other. Off screen, Jerry Orbach and Benjamin Bratt couldn't stand each other. It started during Bratt's first season. Orbach was a theater legend, a Broadway star who'd done thousands of live performances. He expected professionalism, preparation, discipline. Bratt was younger, still learning television, and sometimes he'd flub lines or miss marks. Orbach didn't yell, he didn't make a scene, he just went cold. Between takes, he'd read the newspaper, he'd talk to the crew. But he wouldn't talk to Bratt. Bratt tried it first. He'd ask Orbach for advice, try to start conversations, and suggest grabbing lunch. Orbach would give one-word answers and walk away. The freeze-out lasted for years. Other cast members tried to mediate. Directors tried to force bonding. Nothing worked. And yet, when the cameras rolled, they were perfect. The chemistry looked real because they were both such good actors they could fake it. But the second someone called cut, the wall went back up. It wasn't until Bratt's final season that things thawed slightly. Orbach pulled him aside after a particularly emotional scene and said, "You've gotten better. You're a real actor now." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just acknowledgement. And for Bratt, it was enough. Number 16. The show's casting director quit after being overruled on Sam Waterston.
Wrong when you woke up that morning?
Yes.
Did you know it was wrong when you...
Your obstruction allows a massacre to happen. I will crucify you, Mr. Kralik. I will charge you.
When the producers needed a new executive assistant district attorney in season 5, the casting director had a list: experienced dramatic actors, recognizable faces, people who could carry the gravitas of the courtroom scenes. Sam Waterston wasn't on that list. The casting director thought he was too soft, too gentle, too theatrical. She wanted someone harder, someone who felt like a real prosecutor. But Dick Wolf overruled her. He'd seen Waterston in The Killing Fields and The Great Gatsby. He knew Waterston could play intelligence, morality, and quiet fury all at once. The casting director pushed back hard. She said Waterston would make the show feel like a history lesson, that he lacked the edge Law & Order needed. Wolf didn't budge. He offered Waterston the role. Waterston accepted, and the casting director quit. She walked out, saying she couldn't work for a producer who didn't trust her judgment. Wolf replaced her within a week, and Sam Waterston became Jack McCoy, one of the most iconic characters in television history. He stayed for 16 seasons, longer than almost anyone else. And he proved that sometimes the wrong choice is actually perfect. The casting director never returned to the show, but years later, she admitted in an interview that she'd been completely wrong, that Waterston was irreplaceable, that walking away was the biggest mistake of her career. Number 15. The writers deliberately made the show boring to stand out.
Stop it, both of you. Howard. Morris the cat.
Your grief might be a little more convincing, sir, if you hadn't just admitted.
In 1990, television crime dramas were loud. Car chases, explosions, shootouts, glamorous detectives in expensive suits solving murders in exotic locations. Dick Wolf looked at all of that and said, "We're doing the opposite." He wanted Law & Order to feel boring. Intentionally, gray suits, fluorescent lighting, dingy squad rooms, no music except scene transitions, no romantic subplots, no character backstories unless absolutely necessary. Just cases, just procedure, just the law. Network executives thought he was insane. They said audiences wanted escapism, not a documentary about paperwork and plea bargains. But Wolf believed there was an audience tired of the noise, people who wanted to watch smart people solve problems using intelligence instead of firepower. He was right. When Law & Order premiered, it looked different from everything else on television. It felt real in a way other shows didn't. Critics called it refreshingly understated. Audiences called it addictive. Because while other shows were screaming for attention, Law & Order whispered. And somehow, that made people lean in closer. The boring choice became the show's greatest strength. It trusted viewers to be smart enough to follow complex legal arguments and moral dilemmas without flashy distractions. And viewers rewarded that trust for over 20 years. Number 14, S. Epatha Murkerson was playing a character dying of cancer while battling it in real life.
What brings you to our corner of paradise?
I like you with me so far.
You stalked her. I got that.
Lieutenant Anita Van Buren was the steady hand, the voice of reason, the boss who kept the detectives in line while dealing with department politics. S. Epatha Murkerson played her for 17 seasons, becoming the longest-serving cast member in Law & Order history. But during season 20, something changed. Van Buren was diagnosed with cervical cancer in the show. The character went through chemotherapy, dealt with mortality, fought to keep working despite her illness. What audiences didn't know was that Murkerson wasn't just acting, she was living it. Murkerson had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes years earlier, and during season 20, her health took a serious turn. She was dealing with complications, medication adjustments, exhaustion that went beyond normal filming fatigue. She never told the writers explicitly, but she asked them if Van Buren could face a health crisis. She wanted to explore what it meant to be a strong woman dealing with vulnerability. The writers agreed, creating one of the show's most powerful storylines. Murkerson played every scene with raw honesty, because she understood intimately what Van Buren was going through. The fear, the determination, the refusal to let illness define you. When Van Buren went into remission, audiences cheered, and Murkerson, quietly, kept fighting her own battle off-screen. Number 13, the show filmed in real New York courtrooms and police stations.
Harbor said the body probably went in the water off Manhattan.
Wait a minute, I read you.
Is dismissed, court is adjourned.
Most crime shows build sets. Law & Order used the real thing. Dick Wolf made a deal with the city of New York. The show could film in actual police precincts, actual courthouses, actual DA offices. In exchange, the show would portray the NYPD and legal system in a generally positive light. It was a win-win. The city got good PR. The show had an authenticity you couldn't fake, but filming in real locations created chaos. Detectives would be working actual cases in one room, while actors filmed scenes 20 feet away. Real judges would be in chambers, while the Law & Order crew set up shots in their courtrooms. Tourists would wander into frame, thinking they'd stumbled onto a real trial. The production had to hire off-duty cops as security, just to keep real criminals and real witnesses from accidentally appearing in episodes. One time, during a season 8 shoot in a Manhattan precinct, an actual arrest happened right behind the cameras. A detective tackled a suspect through the craft services table. The crew kept filming. They almost used the footage. The authenticity came with a price. Schedules were unpredictable. Locations would get pulled at the last minute because of real police activity. But Wolf never compromised. He believed filming in real places made the show feel lived in, gritty, honest, and he was right. You could feel the difference. Number 12, Jesse L. Martin was cast 20 minutes before his first table read.
I got nothing to worry about. I got a permit for the gun. I discharged it in my own home without endangering anyone.
The role of Detective Ed Green needed to be filled fast. The previous detective had been written off. Production was starting in 3 days, and the casting director had gone through 50 actors without finding the right fit. Then Jesse L. Martin walked in. He'd just come from a Broadway show, still in his stage clothes, no time to change. He'd heard about the audition that morning and rushed over between performances. He read 3 scenes. That's it. 3 scenes in a small room with a camera operator who looked half asleep. Martin left thinking he'd blown it. 2 hours later, his agent called. "You got it. Table read is at 9 a.m. tomorrow." Martin panicked. He didn't have a script. He didn't know the character. He barely knew what Law & Order was about. He'd watched maybe 2 episodes in his life. He stayed up all night reading every script he could find, watching old episodes, trying to figure out the rhythm, the tone, the style. When he showed up to the table read the next morning, exhausted and terrified, Jerry Orbach looked at him and said, "Relax, kid, you're going to be fine." And he was. Martin stayed for 8 seasons, becoming one of the most beloved detectives in the show's history, all because he rushed over from a Broadway stage with 20 minutes to spare. Number 11, Dick Wolf banned all personal storylines after season 3.
Where there's a law, I'll enforce it. Where there's a crime, I'll prosecute it.
In the early seasons, Law & Order tried to give characters personal lives, detective relationships, family drama, romantic entanglements. By season 3, Dick Wolf realized it was a mistake. He watched other crime shows get bogged down in soap opera storylines. He saw how personal drama pulled focus from the cases. So he made a rule: no more personal lives. If it doesn't relate to the case, it doesn't exist. Writers weren't allowed to create storylines about divorces unless they connected to an investigation. No scenes at home. No conversations about kids unless a child was part of the crime. The cast hated it at first. They wanted depth. They wanted to explore their characters beyond work. But Wolf was immovable. He believed the cases were the stars, not the people solving them. And he was right. The ban forced writers to make every scene essential. Every piece of dialogue had to serve the story. There was no filler, no wasted moments. Characters became defined by how they approached their jobs, not by what they did when they went home. It made Law and Order faster, leaner, more focused than any other show on television. And it created a template that crime shows would follow for decades. Because sometimes what you leave out is more important than what you put in. Number 10, the show's most controversial episode was banned from syndication for 8 years. Season 14, Episode 19, Embedded. An episode about a journalist embedded with troops who witnesses a war crime and refuses to reveal his source. It aired in April 2004, right as the Abu Ghraib prison scandal was breaking, and it destroyed careers. The episode didn't hold back. It showed American soldiers committing atrocities. It questioned military justice. It put the media on trial for protecting sources over revealing the truth. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Veterans groups protested outside NBC headquarters. Advertisers pulled out. Affiliate stations in military towns refused to air it. The Pentagon released a statement calling the episode irresponsible and inflammatory. Dick Wolf stood by it. He said the show's job was to ask difficult questions, not provide comfortable answers. But the damage was done. When Law and Order went into syndication, TNT and USA Network both refused to air Embedded. It was quietly removed from the rotation. For 8 years, the episode essentially didn't exist. You couldn't watch it. You couldn't stream it. It was buried. It wasn't until 2012 that the episode quietly reappeared on streaming platforms, with no announcement, no explanation. By then, the controversy had faded. But the episode remained one of the most powerful and uncomfortable hours Law and Order ever produced, because sometimes asking the right questions costs more than anyone wants to pay. Number 9, Jerry Orbach died during production and his character wasn't given a funeral.
And her husband killed himself. Something must have set her off. There was something she didn't share during group. Yes.
Oh my God. Jerry Orbach was in Law and Order. Lenny Briscoe became the heart of the show, the weather detective with a joke for every crime scene and wisdom earned through decades of mistakes. When Orbach was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2004, he kept it quiet. He told Dick Wolf. He told a few close friends. But he didn't tell the cast. He didn't want pity. He didn't want people treating him differently. He kept working. Even as the cancer spread, even as treatment left him exhausted. He filmed his final episode in November 2004. Less than a month later, he was gone. He died on December 28th, just days after his last episode aired. The show was in the middle of production for season 15. The writers had to scramble. They'd planned for Lenny to retire to get a proper send-off. Instead, they got one episode to acknowledge his death, one scene. Detective Green gets a phone call. Lenny died. That's it. No funeral, no montage, no emotional goodbye, just the next case. Fans were furious. They demanded to know why one of the most beloved characters in television history didn't get a proper farewell. Dick Wolf's answer was simple. That's not what Lenny would have wanted. He hated sentimentality. He would have wanted the work to continue, and so it did. But the cast mourned privately. And to this day, some of them say the show never fully recovered from losing him. Number 8, the entire cast was replaced within 3 seasons and no one noticed.
Stand human nature. You might profit from.
My client won't leave her cell. She's not interested. Did you tell her what would happen if she...
Between seasons 16 and 19, every single original and long-term cast member left. Sam Waterston, S. Ipotha Murkerson, Jesse L. Martin, Fred Thompson. One by one, they were written out, replaced. And something remarkable happened. The show didn't suffer. Ratings stayed strong. Critics barely mentioned it. Because Dick Wolf had built something unprecedented, a show where the format was bigger than the stars, where the structure mattered more than the faces. New detectives came in, new prosecutors, new judges, and the machine kept running, perfectly, smoothly, as if nothing had changed. Other shows collapsed when lead actors left. Law and Order thrived. It proved Wolf's philosophy. No one person was essential. The system was essential. The process was essential. The storytelling was essential. Actors were interchangeable parts in a well-oiled machine. It sounds cold, it sounds ruthless, but it worked for 20 years. And it allowed Law and Order to outlast every other crime drama of its generation. Because while other shows were building around stars, Wolf was building around an idea. And ideas don't age. They don't demand raises. They don't get tired. They just keep working, forever, until someone decides to pull the plug. Number 7. Scripts were written in 72 hours and never revised.
I'm Jerry Orbach. Welcome to The Precinct at Law & Order.
Most television shows spend weeks on scripts, outlines, drafts, revisions, table reads, punch-ups. Law & Order didn't have time for that. Dick Wolf created a system. Every Monday morning, the writing staff would gather. They'd pick a case from the news. By Monday night, they'd have an outline. By Tuesday night, a first draft. By Wednesday, the script was locked. Thursday and Friday were for production rewrites, but only for practical reasons. If a location fell through, if an actor couldn't say a line, if a legal term was wrong, but the story never changed. The structure never changed, and the script was never revised for creative reasons. Writers either got it right the first time, or they were replaced. It was brutal, efficient, and it produced some of the tightest television writing in history. Because when you don't have time to overthink, you rely on instinct. You trust structure. You follow the formula. And the formula worked. 20 years, 456 episodes. Almost all of them were written in 3 days. Other showrunners called it impossible. Dick Wolf called it necessary, because Law & Order wasn't about perfect scripts. It was about producing consistent quality at an impossible pace. And somehow, against all logic, it worked. Number 6. The show almost ended after season 6.
Promised people that I would save them, and I'm going to keep my promise.
We have an opportunity.
Dog, I just think this is such a great...
1996. Law & Order had been on the air for 6 seasons. Solid ratings, critical respect, a loyal fan base, and NBC was ready to cancel it. Why? The network was chasing younger viewers. They wanted edgier content, flashier shows. Law & Order felt old, procedural, tired. The decision came down during upfront negotiations. Cancel it quietly, replace it with something new. Dick Wolf found out through a phone call, not from the network president, from his agent. He was furious. He called every executive he knew. He made his case. The show was profitable. It was reliable. It was the kind of steady programming that networks build schedules around. But NBC wasn't listening. Then something unexpected happened. Another network made an offer. CBS wanted Law & Order. They'd take it, give it a better time slot, and promote it properly. Suddenly, NBC panicked. They couldn't let their competition have a proven hit. So they reversed course, renewed the show, but gave Wolf a warning. You need to make it younger, fresher, or we're done. Wolf ignored them. He kept making the same show, the same format, the same tone, and it ran for 14 more seasons. Because sometimes the network doesn't know what they have until they almost lose it, and sometimes stubbornness is the only thing standing between a classic and cancellation. Number 5. Angie Harmon and Sam Waterston fought about politics in every episode.
Me. The offer is 15 to life, or we meet with the judge tomorrow to set a new trial date.
Abby Carmichael and Jack McCoy. On screen, they were the perfect prosecutorial team. Mentor and protege, experienced lawyer and ambitious newcomer. Off-screen, Angie Harmon and Sam Waterston couldn't have been more different. Waterston was liberal, outspoken about progressive causes, a vocal critic of conservative policies. Harmon was the opposite, conservative, Republican, unafraid to argue her positions. And they argued constantly, between takes, during lunch, in the makeup trailer. The topics ranged from gun control to the death penalty to the war in Iraq. Heated discussions that sometimes crossed into genuine anger. Other cast members would leave the room. Crew members learned to stay quiet. But here's the strange part. It made their on-screen relationship better. Jack McCoy was supposed to push boundaries, to question authority, to fight for justice even when it made him unpopular. Abby was supposed to push back, to represent a different perspective, to challenge his assumptions. The real-life tension between Waterston and Harmon gave those scenes an edge they wouldn't have had otherwise. You could feel them actually disagreeing, actually fighting for their positions. When Harmon left after season 9, Waterston told a reporter he missed her. "We drove each other crazy," he said. But that friction made the work better. They haven't worked together since, but they proved that sometimes the best collaborations come from people who disagree about everything except the work itself. Number 4. The show created a legal principle that real courts now reference. Season 7, Episode 8, Family Business. An episode about whether attorney-client privilege extends beyond death. At the time, it was a theoretical legal question, a gray area that hadn't been thoroughly tested in real courts. The Law & Order writers created a scenario. A defense attorney discovers evidence that proves his deceased client committed another murder. Does he have to reveal it? Or does privilege protect the dead? The episode presented arguments on both sides. McCoy argued that privilege dies with the client, that justice for the other victim matters more. The defense argued that without absolute privilege, no client would ever trust their lawyer. The episode ended ambiguously, no clear answer, just a judge's ruling that could go either way. 3 years later, a real case in Massachusetts raised the exact same question, and the defense attorney cited the Law & Order episode in his brief, not as legal precedent, obviously, but as a framework for thinking about the ethical dimensions. The judge referenced it in her opinion. She didn't rule based on a TV show, but she acknowledged that the episode had articulated the dilemma more clearly than most legal scholarship. Since then, the episode has been cited in at least 6 real cases and is taught in several law school ethics courses. A fictional television show created a legal framework that actual courts now use, because sometimes fiction gets to the truth faster than reality does. Number 3. Dick Wolf refused to let characters say, "I love you."
Give me a bottle of your best wine, okay?
Both put code 26 on it?
You got it.
Whom and who was naughty and who was nice. Now look at that incredible piece.
Love was banned, not love itself, just saying it. Dick Wolf had a rule. No character on Law & Order was allowed to say "I love you" to another character. Not detectives to their partners, not prosecutors to their families, not even in passing, not ever. Writers would try to sneak it in. They'd write emotional scenes where it felt natural. Wolf would cut it, every time. His reasoning was simple. The moment someone says "I love you," the show becomes about relationships, and this show is about the work. He believed that expressing love explicitly made characters soft, and made the audience focus on personal drama instead of legal drama. So, love had to be shown, not spoken. A detective covering for his partner, a prosecutor fighting for a victim they never met, a parent testifying to save their child. Actions proved love. Words were unnecessary. The cast found it frustrating. They wanted moments of vulnerability, of connection. But Wolf never budged. There's only one exception in the entire 20-year run. Season 12, Episode 14. A detective talks to his dying daughter. He says it. "I love you." It's the only time. And it's devastating precisely because it's the only time. Because Wolf understood something other showrunners didn't. When you say something constantly, it loses meaning. When you say it once in 20 years, it means everything. Number 2. The show's final episode was filmed without the cast, knowing it was the end.
What happened as a result of your call?
He came right over, but by then her eyes were
dealing with issues that are significant, moral dilemmas that we don't know the answer.
May 24th, 2010. The cast showed up for what they thought was just another episode. Season 20, Episode 23. Rubber Room, a case about a teacher accused of molesting students. Standard Law & Order, nothing special. They filmed it like they'd filmed hundreds before. No speeches, no celebrations, no goodbyes. Then Dick Wolf called a meeting. He gathered everyone on set, and he told them, that was the last episode. NBC is canceling us. Silence, shock. Some people cried. Others just stood there, not believing it. The show had been renewed and canceled so many times over the years that cancellation rumors were constant. But this time, it was real, and nobody had been warned. Wolf later explained that he didn't tell them in advance because he didn't want the final episode to feel like a finale. He wanted it to be what Law & Order always was, just another case. just another day. Just the work continuing until suddenly it didn't. Some cast members were angry. They felt robbed of a proper ending, a chance to say goodbye to characters they'd played for years. Others understood. Because that's exactly how real police work ends. You don't get closing statements on your career. You just work until you retire, or die, or get reassigned. And then someone else takes the case. The machine keeps running, even after you're gone. Number 1. Dick Wolf sold the format to 56 countries and none of them understood it.
Maybe he got a little too fresh, huh?
You Briscoe and Logan?
Yeah.
Law and Order became a global franchise. 56 countries bought the rights to create their own versions. Russia, France, South Korea, Indonesia, even the UK. Dick Wolf sold them the format, the structure, the rules. 2 stories, crime and trial, detectives and lawyers. Simple, except none of them could make it work. The Russian version lasted 1 season. The French version changed it into a relationship drama. The UK version, which should have been the easiest translation, couldn't capture the tone. They made it too dark, too cynical, too British. Every adaptation failed. Some lasted a few episodes, others made it through a season. But none of them survived. None of them understood what made the American version work. Wolf spent years trying to figure out why. He flew to different countries. He consulted on productions. He watched the failures mount. Finally, he realized the problem. Law and Order is fundamentally American. It's about a system that's broken but still works. About institutions that fail but keep trying. About the messy compromise between justice and law. That tension doesn't translate. Other countries either trust their systems completely or distrust them completely. The American ambivalence, the belief that the system is flawed but fixable, that's culturally specific. You can copy the format, you can copy the structure, but you can't copy the worldview. And without that, you just have a procedural, not Law and Order.
Bonus fact: the show's writers predicted real crimes that hadn't happened yet.
It happened 6 times. 6 separate Law and Order episodes depicted crimes that later occurred in real life, not inspired by. Predicted. Season 8 wrote an episode about a sniper targeting people in the Washington, D.C. area. 4 years later, the D.C. sniper attacks happened. Season 11 depicted a politician using social media to manipulate voters. 8 years before Cambridge Analytica. Season 13 showed a pharmaceutical company hiding dangerous side effects. 2 years before the Vioxx scandal broke. Each time, FBI agents and journalists would call Dick Wolf asking, "How did you know?" His answer was always the same: "We didn't. We just paid attention to human nature." The writers weren't psychic. They were observers. They watched patterns. They understood that crimes evolve, but motivations stay the same. Greed, power, revenge, fear. So when they wrote about something that seemed impossible, they were really writing about something that was inevitable. And sometimes, unfortunately, they were right. Because the darkest truth about Law and Order isn't that it showed crimes that happened. It's that it showed crimes that were always going to happen. We just hadn't caught up yet. Law and Order ran for 20 seasons, 456 episodes, more than any other primetime drama in television history. It launched 6 spin-offs. It created a format that defined crime television for a generation. But behind the iconic sound and the rotating cast, it was always about one thing: the system. Flawed, frustrating, imperfect, but still working, still trying, still fighting for something resembling justice. And maybe that's why it lasted so long. Not because it was perfect, because it was real. If you loved uncovering what really happened behind the scenes, go ahead and subscribe, and tell us in the comments which secret shocked you most. Thanks for watching. And remember, in the criminal justice system, the people are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups. But behind the cameras, chaos ruled.